So you haven't done a lot of these interviews?
No.
Not many?
I don't do much talking, period.
Yeah.
You know, right about that.
Do they, the Waggoner's doesn't have? That's right on. There we go. They don't have people come out sometimes and magazines, and it seems like.
Oh, yeah, they have them that comes out there, but I usually stay out of their way most time.
Right. You try to stay in the shadows.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, no, these are pretty simple. We just basically, I like to hear people's stories, and so we just got to talking, and I've had rodeo cowboys on and some military guys, but the ranching cowboys have been real fun lately. A lot of people get a big kick out of them, and your name has come up several times in some of these conversations. So, so yeah, I'd love to just hear the Jimbo Glover story. When did you start out as a little boy cowboy?
I did not grow up a cowboy. But,
Really?
But I went to work for Nick London on June the 1st, 1972. That's when I kind of got my foot in the door, and been doing it pretty much ever since then. But
Where was this at?
I lived up at the Rodeo Ranch up there by Childers, south of Childers there.
What was it called?
Buckle Ales.
Buckle Ales?
Yeah, Nick had that country lease there.
Yes, sir.
And when I showed up there, I was about 19 years old and greener, goer, and dumber than a stump. But anyway, I got my foot in the door anyway. But I stayed there for, I don't know, 8 or 9 months or 7 or 8 months probably. And went on to another job and worked for a gentleman named Hubert Brown over there, lived out South Crow, 7 or 8 miles south of Crow there.
How old are you at this time?
At that time there,
Yes,
I was probably still about 19 or 20 years old, and he had about 350 cows, but he's a big farmer, and that wasn't what I was looking to do, you know.
Yes, sir.
So I called Waggoner's a couple of times there. First time unsuccessful, and the second time I called him was, I worked for Mr. Brown 3.5 years or so, something like that. And finally, a job opening had come open in August of 1976. Been there ever since.
Dang. Since 1976. Good heavens. So does that make next year will be 50 years?
No, it will be, actually it'll be on the 29th of August, it'll be 49 years.
Right, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Wow. That's awesome. That's, you don't hear of a lot of people staying at a job that often.
No, this is only the third job I've ever had in my adult life, you know. But
wow.
I told them if they give me a job, I'd stay. So I held up my hand to do anyway.
You told them if they give you a job, you would
I said, if they'll give me a stay, I said, I'll stay with you. And so they gave me a job, and I held up my end of the bargain.
You say something, and you mean it, dadgummit. Oh, that's awesome. So you've seen a lot of changes. Is there anybody else that's been there that long at that ranch?
Not at the time right now, but there's several people over the years that were 50-plus years out there.
Yes, sir. Wes was there quite a long time, wasn't he?
About 55, I think is what Wes is telling me.
So you're coming for the record. You're sneaking up on him.
No,
We're going for 75.
We're going for 75. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
What was transportation like when you first got there? As far as like, I mean, I know that you guys were probably using pickups, or were you?
we used when I first got there, we called it a dog wagon. It's kind of like one of them panel wagon vans. It had a sliding door on the side, and that's what most of the guys rode in that. And then they had a couple of pickups and stuff, trucks.
Yes, sir. And you guys, I'm sure we're using the wagon.
No, they pulled the wagon in 1973, and about 3 years before I got there.
Oh, okay.
But no, we never did have a wagon there. Sometimes in later years, we might pull it out over on the west side of the ranch. Ran a few calves out of it or something, or east side of the ranch. And that's just 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
Yes, sir. So when you started, were you like full-time day worker, or did you get a camp?
No, I just worked on the wagon crew there out of headquarters there.
Yes, sir. That's what Gringo was telling me, that that the wagon crew would, you guys, because it takes a long time to get through branding season and weaning, doesn't it? I mean,
Pretty
longer
good.
than most ranches.
Pretty good stretch.
And is it 3 months takes you guys?
Yeah, 3 to 4 months, usually in the spring and fall. So
Yes, sir.
about 8 months out of the year.
So you can keep a day worker pretty busy.
Yes, sir. It's a good day working gig.
And that's a good way to find good campers too, because you get to watch them through a
Sure.
right.
Yeah. There's been quite a few day workers stay on and, go full time.
Really?
Yeah, like Zane Davis, him and Regan Johnson are two I can think of. They started out day working there and then ended up full time and then gone on, and Zane's at 4 Sixes now, and Regan's at Tongue Rivers. But I guess the way I understand Jimbo, that y'all never did work day workers before, right?
No, pretty much kind of lived in a closed world out there for 40 years,
So you would have, just everybody on the ranch would pitch in if somebody needed help.
Yeah,
You
they
didn't-
had, but when I first went there and stuff, they had about 18 men that worked on that wagon crew. About half of them married and about half of them single. And then they get 3 or 4 campers a day to come in there. So you had some big crews. You'd have 22, 23 men there
Yes, sir.
almost every day.
Were there just less day workers in general? Because maybe guys weren't traveling as much. Maybe you didn't have as many guys with pickups and a few horses that would just take off and go part-time day work?
No, they pretty much thought they were, permanent employees out there. Either lived in a bunkhouse or was married, lived in one of the houses around headquarters. But
Yes, sir. What were the pastures like back then? Was that something where, has that changed a lot? Like built more cross fences, or when you say 22 men for a Brandon, like that's a pretty big old
we
pasture.
had back then there. We had some big herds. The 650 cows. 575.
Golly.
Two or three more. Maybe it'd be around 500 cows, and needed a big. Those things there. A lot of time we just throw them up in a corner of a trap or something. And just have some guys hold them up. And then just drag them like that right there.
Yes, sir. Just pull them out of the.
Mm-hmm.
But you maybe weren't doing as much to them then.
No, you was branding them and vaccinating and even de-owning too back then. Was there most all of were Hereford cattle.
So maybe even a little more.
Yeah. It's always funny. Jimbo tells me, just get him to talk about it. I don't want to say too much here. It's his deal, but Jimbo, tell him about what they told you when you first started, when they handed you those dehorners.
Ever since I started riding bulls and punching fools, I've been wearing an American hat because I'm an American. I actually wore a different hat before that for the longest, but then my mom got a job. So wear an American hat, old son. Otherwise, you ain't no cowboy.
Oh, they picked me and said, dehorners, they said, learn how to sharpen them, learn how to use them. Said all you're going to be doing is that and flanky calves.
Oh, dang.
How long was it? You've told me, but I forgot. How long was it before you ever even drug a calf there?
The third year that I was here in I drug a total of 7 calves at one spring. I didn't drag none the first 2 years.
Oh man.
What was it? Somebody told you there about your rope. They said, "Give me your rope. I need to tie up this corner."
Oh yeah, they'd come up there. They said, "Here, let me borrow your rope there," and they'd tie one of them corners up with it.
Oh man, there'd be day workers leaving.
Oh yeah.
These days.
you expect to get to drag.
Yeah.
Now, but
Golly. I
Jimbo, it's always interesting to me. I've got an old map there in my house. My wife found it in the ranch office, but it's how you were asking about cross fences, and Jimbo's told me a lot. I didn't get him to tell it, but it's always interesting to me how different the ranch used to be. You know, now it's fairly cut up. There's still some bigger pastures, but I mean, it was a whole lot different story, you know, when he first came there. A lot different.
Like that North Red and stuff there, it went from over there on that Rock Creek Road, and it went plumb across to the electric lane, that electric lane over there.
About 10,000 acres or better, maybe?
Probably so. Probably maybe even a little more.
Yes, sir.
Lots of those.
About 450 in there.
Dang.
Yeah, that map, it whole different arrangement. Lots of 10,000 acre pastures. We're now, I don't know, Jimbo, what would you say? I've thought about it before. It's hard to say what the average pasture size now would be, but 4 to 5,000. I mean, there's a couple there that are 8 or 12, but as a rule,
6 to 8 sections probably average.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
Place is so big though, it's hard to remember.
Well, didn't you say you had to relearn it when they went to cross fencing it in the 80s? You had to.
Yeah, and they started cutting it up. Or you didn't know the acreage on it and stuff, but you just had to guesstimate it.
Did they come to you when making decisions that need like a history lesson attached to it? I'm trying to think of like a management type deal where you need to know maybe what was done in the past. I feel like you'd be an excellent resource.
They might ask me about, need to go somewhere or something. Do I know how to get there and stuff? Yeah.
I've done that a lot. In my time there, I've leaned on Jimbo a lot.
Hold on. Let's ask Jimbo.
Yeah.
There's probably a better way.
Yeah, absolutely. He can get there blindfolded. But.
When those pastures were that much bigger, I'm sure a lot of those, you would just do multiple drives and do a couple of jerks in the same pasture? Or if you had 22 guys, you try to just spread out and make one big drive?
Yeah, we just spread out, try to take it all in at once there.
Yes, sir. What has that changed any? The way that, guys may operate in a jig line and holler it off?
That's the way we do it now and stuff there, but before and stuff there, we pretty much the same way, that we were using a helicopter back then, and he would stay way high up in the sky and just come down and help you when you needed help, but
has it always been pretty brushy, or did they do a lot of brush control back then?
Well, they done some brush control years and years ago, but it done grow back up as big as it was, or almost as big as it was when I first come here.
Yes, sir. It's crazy to think about all the lessons a guy can learn over a span of 50 years on the same place. Just maybe how you might have matured as a cowboy from those early days.
From watching the cowboys around you.
Yes, sir.
They'll teach you what you need to know.
Can you think back on maybe some of those early hands that you like to watch?
Oh yeah, I never did get to watch GL. GL told me one time. He said you never get too old to learn something.
Yes, sir.
He said if you keep your lip buttoned up, your eyes and ears open, he said you learn something every day of your life.
Yes, sir.
And still holds true.
Yeah. I try to keep an open mind. got quite a bit to learn, and but I can imagine when you first showed up on the scene, you probably just like a sponge taking it all in, especially only maybe having had a couple of other jobs.
Still fascinating for me to watch.
Yes, sir.
Watch good crew of cowboys work a herd of cattle. Nothing any prettier.
Yes, sir. Did pretty much everybody was tying off then?
Oh yeah. once in a while there'd be somebody come in there and take a little hitch or something that was from up in the Northwest or something like that, and they'd dally on a horse like that. I never had been around nothing like that before. Everybody always tied on around here.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I had Hagen Lamb sat down. He said he thought more guys were dallying these days because of ranch rodeos. He said he felt like, you just didn't have to wait for your slack to get. And so he feels like that's why a lot of guys in Texas these days have tried to practice dallying, just because they can be a little faster when it comes rodeo time. Did you get to participate in, I know Wagner's has been to some ranch rodeos.
No, I don't know. I quit that a few years ago.
But you've been before?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I have been before.
What did you ever ride the bronc?
No.
You let them have
Still
it?
can't ride one.
But you've had to you start a lot of broncs there.
Yeah, I don't take any broncs no more or nothing like that, but I did for a lot of years.
Yes, sir. What so I guess you got to learn how to. Did you know much about training horses when you signed on?
No, not at all.
Really?
No. Yeah, I learned a whole bunch about a whole lot of things since I've been here,
Right.
and had some awful good teachers too.
Yes, sir. What was it about your attitude that you think and your work ethic that appealed to them, that made them take on somebody green that early? How do you think you impressed them?
I don't. Sometimes I wonder how I survived, but I did. But,
Yes, sir.
but you just do the best you can under the best circumstances. You can't, just go get it. If you want it bad enough, you go find it,
Yes, sir.
and that's kind of where I think about things.
Yes, sir. What was your first camp job there?
I've never been on a camp before. I've just always worked out of headquarters there.
Oh, really?
I feed a few cows over in that Four Corners country. I got 4 or 5 pastures that I kind of take care of, but I just live right there west of headquarters, and we still go with Brad and them most of the time, but when I can.
What when you're driving through headquarters, is that the row that they call it?
Yes, sir.
Just right there on the road? I can't remember.
Yes, sir.
what that.
Right off the highway there, right off the Seymour Vernon Highway. Yes, sir.
But I guess that would be east of. So that's not where you lived.
No, I lived on that road for 25 and a half years there, and then I moved up to headquarters, a half mile west of headquarters, and I've been living there for about 22 or 30 years, something like that.
Yes, sir. And how long you been there, Brad?
We came there to Coffee Creek Camp in September 2017, and then now we're more or less headquarters. We don't live right at headquarters. We're west headquarters now. Been there since the spring of 19 now.
Gotcha.
Doing what we're doing now. But
So 8 years. This would be your 8th year.
8 years coming up already.
I
Yeah.
got to thinking the first time I met you would have been my very first time. Reggie invited me out.
Yeah, that's my first time there at the Sixes too, but I remember that. Yeah.
I think you were day working.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say it was 2014
I bet. Yeah, that sounds right. I think so. 2014 or 15, long in there somewhere.
because I know it was about a year after my dad died.
Okay.
So anyhow, Cole and I were rodeoing
Yeah.
together. Cole Hatfield. I guess you got to spend a couple years around old Cole Hatfield. You probably know. You've probably seen him around since he was like a little bitty fart.
Yeah, him and Heath both.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, Heath worked out there too.
Mm-hmm. He sent me a picture of me holding him when he was 7 months old and stuff.
Dang. I've got that picture in here.
Oh
over your
yeah, there he
shoulder
is right there.
of Cole.
He's flanking a big one, Jimbo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He probably wasn't moving very fast.
Well, if you look close enough, you can see Monty Holler is behind that calf.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. You can see his leggings
He's
right
helping
there.
him. You can see his chinks
He looks like he's about to throw him over the.
spitting out the bottom.
Yeah, that's a good picture.
But I love the picture, and I saw it. Peter Robbins took that picture, and I was like, man, I got to have a copy
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, that's good.
For the studio, just because.
Other than Cole's in it, other than that, it's a good picture.
Right. But I don't know. I think a picture's when you think about a picture being worth 1,000 words, like especially knowing Cole,
Yeah,
it'd take about 1,000 words to describe
intense.
and work
Yeah.
ethic and hustle and so on and so forth. I don't want to gas the guy up too much
Yeah,
here, but that's him and that's that
That's
picture.
it. That's
and you guys
Cole
have
right
seen
there.
a lot of those kind of cowboys come through Wagner's.
Well, I think Jimbo, he's holding back here, but he was the wagon boss for a long time right there, and he trained a lot of good hands. KC Green, one
Yeah.
of them. You just had him on here. KC runs the wagon at the Sixes now, but Jimbo's trained a lot of them right there. Seen a lot of them come and go.
You bet. How'd you like being wagon boss?
It was an all right kind of a job. It was a little I had a little time of trouble adjusting to it and stuff, especially like all the paperwork and stuff that I had to do. But outside of, working the guys and stuff, you do is just take off and then knock your tracks out,
Yes, sir.
I didn't have any problem with that part of it there, just the book work and stress and strain and stuff like
Yes,
that.
sir.
That's the part of it that was tough, and not the physical part of it, the mental part of it.
Yes,
is
sir.
what got me.
Managing people
Mm-hmm.
can be a little different sometimes. I want to say Cowboys would maybe be easier, but Cowboys might be harder. to
Sometimes,
manage.
sometimes.
Yeah. Some of them.
As long as you're running and roping and things are going fast, it's good. But, it gets tough in the fall of the year. The way we spend a lot of time around the chute now, and that, that wears on anybody. It gets pretty monotonous. But as long as you're horseback trotting, good hands are content, seem like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a friend. He's got a little wiener dog that he's been around for like however long they live.
Yeah.
But and then they live out on a ranch, and they would have stray dogs show up, and they've always got a new stray dog. But this one wiener dog, Shorty, he just like tried and true. He's there, and. Anyways, he said, yeah, old Shorty, he's seen him come and he's seen him go, because he's just always there. And I bet you've seen him come and you've seen him go.
Hundreds of them,
Yep.
literally. I don't know how many cowboys I've seen there and stuff. It would be several hundred people come through there, in my length of time being there.
Yes, sir. Man, I'm trying to remember what worm there was some, not like a grub worm, but there was some that they you guys had to like treat early on. Like it might have been the early 70s, and then it was eradicated later on. But you guys
You talking about like the scabies type deal or something?
Maybe.
The scabies deal was, we had to dip all the cattle at that left and went out of state. You know, you had to dip all those cattle. It was okay if they stayed inside of Texas and stuff, but I guess those other people were scared of getting whatever that was there, you know. But I know it was a scabies deal that we were dipping the cattle for.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It was something where, like, in the off season, you guys were having to rope and doctor all the time. And
when you're not talking about the screw worms, are you?
Screwworms. That's
the
what it
screw
was.
worms
Screw
way
worms.
back before back before that. But
yeah.
but
Were there still screw worms around whenever you first showed up? They pretty much
no,
gone?
they was already done. I remember reading about it, but they said that guy he raised these screw worm in somehow or another. He kept them under some kind of light and made them sterile, and then they said they just dropped them big old boxes of that stuff out of them planes and stuff, and they couldn't reproduce.
Oh, that's how they.
And that's how they
eradicated it.
eradicated the deal there.
Gotcha.
He's a pretty smart fella.
Dang, that is smart. My dad was talking at the Pitchfork. He was talking to Billy George or something. Billy George Drennan,
Jordan.
and they were kind of just talking about, you know, a lot of modern things and how things aren't, you know, all change isn't that good. And my dad said, well, they eradicated screw worms. And he said, yeah, and it made it hard to make good horses after that because they got to do a lot of roping on those screw worms. And anyways, it was my dad trying to take up for modern medicine, but I couldn't remember what it was. Screw worms, that's what it is. So whenever you first got there and you're having to, you know, I'm sure you got a string of horses.
Oh, yeah.
Was there a learning curve as far as like trying to break a 2-year-old being that green?
No, but I had some of them there that I would have sure enough swapped for one.
Did y'all start them as 2-year-olds back in, Jimbo?
No, they started them at threes.
Threes.
Long in the very early 80s, they started breaking them as 2-year-olds.
Oh, really?
Why wait till they're 3? Just a little.
That's just the way they always did it. That was just the way. But
Maybe a 2-year-old's just kind of small because they wanted to break him and use him
I guess so.
right then.
the 3-year-olds were big and stout.
Little big and stout. Dang. Did you? Can you remember any wrecks happening early on? I have plenty of wrecks on broncs these days. I can't imagine.
Not really. You know, it didn't necessarily have to be a bronc or something. I was going to probably get bucked off 6 or 8 times a year, or at least that many times. But
Yeah. Or did you see any?
yeah, I've been in some of them too. You know, but
Yep.
I've seen lots of good bronc rides in the morning.
Yes, sir. Seems to be the time it happens.
Long time ago, stuff it happened pretty regular like that. You just hoped it wasn't going to be you.
Yes, sir.
There's probably somebody back then. There's probably a bronc rider too every day.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see many of them anymore, but there's
No.
probably some every day back then.
And most every day,
Yeah.
something would be humping up somewhere.
Why do you think it changed?
Just the difference in the way that they started handling the horses and stuff, I think, you know, and then starting them the 2-year-old years got to have something to do with it too.
Yes, sir.
A little younger, not quite as big and stout stuff.
Yep. Brad, what's something that you've learned from Jimbo?
Shoot, I could go from now till next week. Man, there's a lot of things. Just, you know, right there, it's the works, you know, are so much longer than a lot of other places. You know, it's more of a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimbo's just steady, you know, making every step count. I mean, he's a cow man too. He knows cows better than anyone I've ever been around. And I mean, you throw a herd up there, you know, and he goes in there and cuts dries out. There's not going to be any dries left in there. You know, I'm pretty bad. I get in a hurry. Let's get to the fun part, you know. And I might leave some dries in there getting in too big a hurry, but you know, if you brand 200 calves, you can bet you're going to count 200 cows out, and every one of them is going to be wet.
Right.
If he's working the herd, you know. But
Dang.
if I go in there and do it, I might leave 3 or 4 or 5, might even leave 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, biggest thing I see with Jimbo is he makes every step count. His equipment's always good. You know, Jimbo's ducks are always in a row. But
What do you mean by make every step count? How does that? What's your day-to-day look like that'll kind of where you try to make it all? I guess efficiency.
yeah,
That is something Cole Hatfield brought up when you're checking country. You need to know that,
yeah,
all right, while I'm fixing fence in this,
making your time count. You know, if you're there, you know, get it done. If it's something that's not a big deal, it can wait. You know, but Jimbo stepped in there on a lot of these camps where we've had a vacancy, you know, and you look around and he's got gates propped back up that kind of been neglected, and you know, fences are all high and tight. Just there's so many little things that add up over time, and it's easy to say, well, I'll get it tomorrow. But you know, Jimbo, he doesn't steal any time from the ranch. If he's there working, he's getting something done.
yes, sir. Yeah, I was talking to Dusty, and he was like, man, if you're going to be on a camp or work on a ranch where I'm sure there's, you know, wagon boss for sure, but you've kind of got to have a little bit of entrepreneurial type, you know, be willing to be self-employed, you know, because your boss isn't with you every day. You've got to be able to set your own hours, and, you know, he's not going to come wake you up at the house. You don't report into an office.
Yeah,
And so there's no accountability to get you started in the morning.
yeah, self-motivated.
You got to be self-motivated, and a lot of those same attributes that, you know, those self-employed guys would have. I guess that's something you probably took to real early.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fanatic about like fences. You know, if I go by there and I'll see a wire swinging like that, I'll back up, get out and fix it. That way I ain't got to look at it the next morning.
Yes, sir. My granddad used to preach to me about not procrastinating. Seems like he would have appreciated that about you too. Like, just get it done right now while it's handy. But sometimes that might mean you get to dinner late.
Yeah, or maybe miss it all together. That don't make no difference there.
Yes, sir.
There's no sense in driving 25 miles to eat and then 25 miles back just to fix something. Just go ahead and fix it.
Yes, sir.
That way you ain't got to worry about it no more.
Yes, sir. What about the cows? How have the cows changed over the years?
Well, you know, we started crossbreeding there probably long in the 80s and stuff there, you know, crossing with black and red Angus bulls, you know, Brangus bulls, and started doing that crossing up stuff. But one big change is they don't have the Herefords anymore. You know, they phased them out, but we still have some good crossbred cows. And they're basically about the same size animals and everything. But look, you know, the cow herd looks relatively good to me and stuff, you know.
What's their temperament like now? Has it calmed down a lot?
Yeah, they're different than the Herefords were and stuff, but you know, they're not here no more. So
Yes, sir.
but they've got pretty good temperament about them and stuff. Handle real well. You'd up bad here the last 2 or 3 years or so. We just take off with 300-400 of them things. You know, we might just sprinkle them through 10 or 12 mile of country and stuff there. That's pretty neat to get to do stuff like that again. And we may go back west with them, but that's pretty neat. You've done something right in the way you handle stock stuff, or you just can't take off and go do that. That it's got quite a bit of work behind it.
You mean being able to control the herd for 12
Well, I
miles?
mean, yeah, but I mean, but gather them and then just take off with them and not have any problems or anything like that. Yeah, it takes you got to really handle your cattle right to be able to do it like that.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of fun too. You get to see all that old good country again.
How, on average, how long would you keep those Herefords compared to the Angus cows?
They used to. They'd get rid of them cows at like 10 or 11 years old, years ago, and that's probably about the life of a cow right now, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Got to get that last baby out of her when she's 10 and put some wheels under her.
Yes, sir.
Jim, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Jimbo was talking about that crossbreeding. I think it's always been interesting to me. Explain to him about how y'all used to do the earmarks on some of those crosses, 15 years ago or something.
Oh yeah, like your blacks and your reds, the Angus cross, they didn't do anything to them. They just kept their same earmarks. They'd mostly be baldies or bots or something. And like I think on the Charlotte crosses, they put a ranch mark one ear and they put a crop in the end of their swallow fort in the end of the ear. And then if they was out of a Brangus bull, they put a knots in the bottom of the ear. If they was out of a Sembre, in their left ear, well, they put 2 notches in the bottom of that one.
That's a lot to keep up. But he had to keep up with all that too on his paperwork and everything.
And
That's a system.
It's confusing.
Why would they, for what reasons all would they need to know that?
If they sent them to a feed yard and
Certain
retained
place.
ownership on them or something,
Yes,
that they could get some carcass information off of them. I'm
You
sure
bet.
it's what they were doing.
Gotcha.
Hey, old son, if you're not feeding every morning with a Can-Am side-by-side, then you ain't no cowboy. I got a Can-Am because I needed a reliable ranch rig that I could use every day because I don't know how to work on stuff like that. So I want something that's not going to break down ever. Get yourself a Can-Am, old son. Total Feeds is what keeps the herd powered here at Radiator Ranch, and Total Equine is what I've been giving Boone for 10 years. He's 24 years old and still going strong. You can get it on Chewy.com or a dealer near you.
And didn't you go to the packing houses some to help
I
with
did.
that
Yeah, I
identification?
Boy, those guys at them packing houses can make some stuff happen in a hurry, boy.
What do you mean?
I mean, if you talk to those guys, they say, well, to make this, to get this many cattle killed per shift, he said, well, 5's got to die a minute, it sound like they're, but I mean, if they have any kind of a breakdown or anything like that, it messes their whole system up because those cattle, when they go on that kill floor, they don't never quit moving, they just.
Yes, sir.
One guy may not make a cut that long, but next guy will do something else.
It's it takes a family, I guess. It takes a whole to get the beef all the way to the plate. That's just part of the system I've never had much interest in.
Yeah.
Kind of like the feedlot. I worked in a feedlot when I was in high school one summer, and I worked there just long enough to know that wasn't the part I wanted to be involved with. But I appreciate it.
There's a lot of knowledge to gain right there.
Absolutely. And hearing guys talk, it's where you can really learn to read sick cattle.
Yeah.
I was on the processing crew, so maybe that's why I was a little bitter.
And I've worked around some guys that have spent a lot of time in a feed yard. Man, they're sharp around yearlings. They know about the medicine and the feed, and there's a lot there to learn. If I could go back and do it all over again, I'd have spent some time.
Spend a little time there.
It's the least romantic part.
Least romantic.
We all being young and everything. We all want to be on a big ranch. Nobody really wants to be on a feed yard deal. But there's a lot to learn right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of those guys that I've heard some guys that have pretty good background in feed yards. If they say that that the gentleman that runs them hospital pens down there and stuff, they said they know as much about medicine as a whole lot of veterinarians do.
Yes, sir. They get to see what really works.
Mm-hmm. They say they really know that medicine.
What did y'all have any? Is there any feed yard, grow yard type aspect to the Waggoner Ranch? I'm sure there's some type of.
No, now they do send. We send our yearlings to a place in Oklahoma after they've been weaned, and just kind of depending on the conditions, we'll keep them around there. Might keep them three weeks, might even keep them 45 days, 60 days. Just kind of depends on how dry it is, really.
But it's not something that you've had to mess with. Or
No,
there's nothing like that there.
No.
You bet.
Yeah.
I didn't know if maybe there was a time where you got to do that for the ranch,
no, and I never have any dealings with that.
but probably plenty of yearlings.
Yeah, they would put out their steers most of the time back west, and all their heifers would go down to Cottonwood or their selling heifers, and then they would keep their replacement heifers around somewhere and kind of pamper them, get them on the feed program, something, and kick them on out into a bigger pasture and stuff, and let them summer on that or something, then maybe turn some bulls in on them, maybe the next fall or something like that.
So you've had to calve out some heifers, I'm sure.
Oh, I've calved out a bunch of heifers.
Yes, sir.
Just when you think that you know everything there is to know about a heifer, something will happen that'll show you how much you don't know about a heifer. They show you how ignorant you really are.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We've got, I just keep a few every year, but we put it's one of our little bucking bulls. He's just kind of a little crossbred thing. And we have good luck with not having to pull anything, but it's fun to do. I really enjoy.
You might be on to something there.
Yep. Yep. And maybe some of them will buck, But put an old bucking bull on some heifers and then a little crossbred bucking bull. But just enough to make it interesting. So do you is that what is the ranch known through the years, just mainly keeping a lot of your stuff? I'm sure you bring in some outside genetics occasionally.
Oh yeah, they'll bring some outside in on their low birth bulls and stuff like that. But that wasn't my department and stuff. But they select the replacement heifers over there when they're vaccinating them and stuff, and we didn't have to mess with that part of it. Might help them haul them off or something, but not the actual working of them.
I'm sure over the years, maybe there's been some, management positions come through and just different guys come through. I bet they all want to spend a day in the pickup with you each time somebody comes in, like just to learn about the ranch, get a little history lesson. I
don't know. I couldn't answer that for you.
Yeah.
If they didn't, they should have.
If they didn't, they should have.
He's an encyclopedia. I remember one time something I've been thinking about when Heath Hatfield was living there at Four Corners at that camp. I got a pasture over there called Fisher, and we had fall cows in there, and we'd pick the bulls up, or he'd pick the bulls up. I mean, short one bull, which wasn't really a big deal. Fisher's pretty good sized pasture and real brushy, but Heath, he's, how the Hatfields are, that one bull, we had to get him. So we'd gone over there and helped Heath, and we'd made some drives and stuff, kind of a short crew, and couldn't find him. And Jimbo told me he's there the next morning after we'd been over there. He said, I got to thinking about that bull he's short over there. He said, I think I know where he is. And he got to tell me about a tank, an old tank over there that sits kind of in the northwest corner of that pasture. And just an old dirt tank, no telling how long it's been there. And you can't even drive to it. You had to trot in there to it. And Jimbo said, we've, through the years, every time we've couldn't find a bull, he's usually been right there. And he said, I didn't think about it till this morning. And So I called Heath and I said, well, Jimbo thinks he knows where that bull is, and really it was quicker to go a different way to get to that tank, you know. So I asked him if it'd be all right if Jimbo and I just went in there and looked around that tank. We could get to it quicker than Heath could. Jimbo and I went over there, and sure enough, there that bull was right there. You know, Jimbo took me right to him. But it's just stuff like that, you know, that just experience, you know, you can't trade for experience. And I could tell you a lot more things similar to that's happened, you know. Just there's lots of nuts and bolts that guys like him that have been there and done all the hard work for years, you know, I've got to capitalize on a lot of it. And I should be asking him more questions, you know. Sometimes I have to learn stuff the hard way, but that he's been a good one to lean on, you know. You just can't trade for that experience, you know.
Yeah, I was just imagining there's probably just each set of pins, you know, maybe there's certain ones where a hill comes in or some brush is around.
Absolutely.
And
sure enough,
Jimbo knows, like, no, right here, we need to bring him in this south side for this reason. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I first came there in 2017, we were gathering a lot of that country. Waggoner's has got their own helicopter, but it's more of like the one, they hire it done now through another guy. Andy Wheatley gathers a lot of that stuff for us now.
Man, I know Andy.
Yeah.
He helped us find some horses a few times.
He's really good, you know, but he's got a smaller kind of, I call him like a bubble, you know, you can see right under your feet.
Yep.
But Waggoner's, when I first came
I rode
there,
in the helicopter with Andy once.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
But back, you know, a few years ago, they had their own helicopter pilot there, and Waggoner's had their own, and still do have their own helicopter, but it's one of those bigger ones, you know. I think it seats 4 people, so you can't really, it's not really for gathering cattle. So we would go, like Jimbo and them used to do, we would go with the helicopter, and the cowboys and the helicopter would work together. We don't do that near as much anymore with Andy, but what I was getting to is Jimbo had been there in the days when they gathered every foot of that country horseback, and it was good to have him to rely on to, you know how to, if we're going over there together, whatever pasture, he still remembered how we needed to scatter out and gather it, you know. And there wasn't anybody else there that had been there and seen that done like he had in the 70s and 80s, you know. So, you know, just things like that. List goes on and on and on.
I feel like if I was a new cowboy there and had some country, I would maybe like, hey, you want to drop off everybody in this?
Oh, yeah.
Because you would know where to put everybody, and just drop me off last.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. He knows where the wreck's going to happen before it ever.
We always
takes
drop
place.
somebody off at this hill, at this flat, at this hill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah, there's an art to all of that, and you don't ever learn any other way but experience. And he's the one that's got it.
There's been a few places, and I just imagine Waggoner's might be one since it's so big, but that it seems like ranches are constantly dealing with Mavericks. Or there was a time when, you know, has that ever been an issue for you guys?
And normally, like on the spring or fall gathering, or like on the spring gathering stuff, you probably pick up 400 of them, weaning and stuff, probably.
Wow.
You know, a couple of hundred little bulls, a couple of hundred heifers. But that's when we had about 11,000 cows.
So I guess it's percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, it's not very much, really. Now, if it was 1,000 or so, that'd be a little bit different or something. But
yes, sir. Was there ever a time where you just went hunting them?
Most of the time, not. You know, if you just miss a few here and a few there, you know, you end up picking them up in the fall and stuff there. Unless, you know, somebody just was over there feeding and captured a bunch of them there, you know, around there. But most generally, they just left them alone and picked them up when they gathered everything.
Yes, sir.
But there was times too, I'm sure though, where y'all especially down that river country, you run across some big 2 and 3, 4-year-old bulls and or an old Maverick cow or something like that.
At one time we worked at River Circle one time, and we picked up one Maverick cow and her baby, and then we had a gooseneck load of yearling Maverick bulls and another gooseneck load of bulls that was probably 2-year-olds.
They kept showing up.
And then had 3 or 4 bulls there was probably 3, 4, and 5 years old there.
Yeah. Y'all had a good day there.
Dang.
But
That's a good little extra paycheck for the ranch.
oh yeah,
You know, they just like finding money.
Christmas every day out there. Huh?
Yep.
Did you tell me a lot of those cattle would be Sicilian inbred? A lot of them, y'all take them up there to headquarters. A lot of them would just lay down and die, not get up.
Yeah, a lot of them would, and then in them things, if you'd holler or something like that, them old cows would just drop and just lay their chin out like that right there, and their little babies be right there beside them. Well, they'd usually kind of settle down, but if you carried one of them in there and they already had the shakes and stuff there, most of the time they would last 2 days.
Just shocked their system. Huh?
Yeah, just, something like, a big 3 or 4-year-old steer or something like that there. Most of them, they can't handle it. Just, I don't know what you do on that, just leave it alone.
Yeah. Can't leave them out there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if they have horns, you can sell the head.
Yeah, there you go. That's about all you got left.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hang their head on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was, I was talking to Zane Heron, and anyway, he was talking about being down in South Texas because on his porch, he's got several just big skulls.
Oh, yeah.
And he said they were Mavericks that as soon as 2 or 3 humans get around them, they just like freak out and die.
Yeah.
And buckle.
That's
Their old
wild.
legs go to buckling. But, yeah. What times of the year, when all would you use the helicopter?
Like in your spring and fall, when you either weaning or branding, either one there,
Was it just certain pastures?
No, they pretty much use it kind of straight across the board there, stuff kind of speed us up a little bit.
On those, tell me about how the day or 2 days maybe it would go on a pasture that had 500 in it.
I don't think, probably at that time, we probably didn't have any pasture that had 500 cows in years ago, when we used to do it like that, guys would be with the helicopter and stuff, getting them thrown up into a corner or in a holding trap or something. Then we would sometimes overnight them and stuff, and then go back over the next day, because you're going to put some wheels underneath them.
Yes, sir. So you'd gather them one day and then brand the
Sometimes,
next.
depending, if it was a really big pasture stuff, there, you got a lot of times just gather them one day and then come back the next day and do whatever you need to do to them.
How many, I guess you might have had 3 or 4 groups of flankers if you're branding that many calves.
Most of the time, they just have 2 draggers, two and 2 flankers, but I guess somebody was having a really good hot day and stuff there, they could put another set down there. But
Oh, if it was really hot outside.
no, I mean, if they had a hot hand,
Oh, yes,
just
sir.
wasn't missing anything.
Yes, sir. Did y'all strip the cows off the calves?
We most of the time we didn't. We just, now some of them, like if we branded that green cabin or something, it had a big wire lot or something, and they might wheel some of them cows out there because there were so many, be 500 plus cows in there, and might wheel about half or 3/4 of them cows out there, and then leave the rest of the babies in there.
Yes, sir. Just get some of them out, right? Yeah, that'd be a lot of cows.
Yeah,
in
it'd get
one.
pretty tight.
Yeah,
And there's still some of those old wire lots. You'll see them around. Jimbo showed me. There's one over there, and you think, man, how in the world could you get anything done in here? That seemed like it'd be pretty tight with that many throwed in there, but I mean, and two, he talks about working in the corners. There's still some of those bull wire corners that you can see. Like we went by one down there in Four Corners here not long ago, and it's where they used to work when two pastures were one pasture. Right there, you can see the remnants of it right there.
Dang.
But I'd like to go back in time and see it,
Do y'all strip now?
Not much. Not much.
really?
Every now and then we do, but just the way the pens are set up, we got those good big pens that they're really set up better to brand with the cows and calves on them. But every now and then we'll strip some. If it's kind of depends on the setup.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
About what time did they start letting everybody drag? Or is it just kind of a seniority thing after you've been there a little bit of time?
I really couldn't. I just know when I first come here and stuff, they didn't really care if you got to drag any calves or not there, but I eventually did get to, so it's all. But I don't know really how to answer that thing there.
Yes,
Most
sir.
time they had kind of a rotation system there.
Yes, sir. Because that's what Boots and Wes said the same thing, that when they were younger, they never drug. That they just flanked and.
Flank dehorn.
Yes, sir.
The older gentleman would vaccinate and brand, and they'd get somebody that carried a good sharp knife to do the marking and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Tell him what Jimmy Lee Smith told you about dragging calves that day when you asked him if the irons were hot enough and you were dragging.
Oh, he told me, he said, you go on in there and stuff there. He said, when it'll be a hot time, you get so caught.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he said, you just go ahead and go on, Jimbo. He said, them irons will be hot time, you get so caught.
They just put them in there, just started the fire. Huh?
Yeah. Just miss a few. Oh, I didn't. Oh, y'all are ready. Oh, I got you. Yeah. Oh man, I've only ever helped it where it took maybe 3 weeks to get through everybody's calves, but I can't imagine. Just seems like by the time you're done with 3 months of it, you might be ready to do something different. That seems like a long time.
Yeah.
To just,
Like we always say, about the middle of May, we go down to Abilene and sell horses. That'll be coming up next week. But it seemed like after Abilene, you get into May, it kind of turns into work. Like right now, you can feel the calves are getting stouter and everything, and which we got about 10 days of branding left right now, and we've got to hump up. And had more help this year than we've had in a while. Got to run 2 crews, and that's of course cut it dang near in half. We've run 2 crews for the last couple of weeks, and so we're sitting in a pretty good spot right now. But we've had those years where 15th of June we were still trying to get done branding. It turns into work.
with the ranch being so big, do you spread out your calving season with that in mind, having to flank humongous calves? Or does that not, or you just kind of deal with it?
I think they just pretty much just have to deal with it stuff. They pretty much turn those bulls out same time in April, 1st of December, isn't that right, Brad?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and like now it's almost a 50-50 split where we've got a spring calving herd, and that's what we're branding now. And then we've got a fall calving herd too. So that kind of breaks the monotony of that workup. Where like when Jimbo was running the wagon and back then y'all just had a spring herd, right, Jimbo? And y'all just, y'all started branding in March and might not, you just got done when you got done.
90 or 100 days of branding,
I just can't imagine how different the management process would be with 11,000 cows.
Yeah.
Compared to my 40, like just,
it's sometimes 40 cows feels like 4,000 too.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's all work no matter what. But
Yes,
like now I like it now because we we brand for 60 days or whatever, and then we pull up. I said earlier it takes about 4 months to do everything, but the way the herds are split now, that fall and spring herd, where you do one thing, you wean for 60 days in the fall, and then you turn around the tail end of your fall and brand 60 days. Mm-hmm. And then spring's the opposite. You brand the first 60 days and turn around and, wean the last part of your deal. So by the time it's getting hot, hopefully, if everything goes right, you've kind of gotten done branding and you just go into weaning your fall calves.
Yes, sir.
But when Jimbo was leading the crew and stuff, those other guys and Jimbo's told me about, you have these wet springs and stuff, you can't work, and you look up, y'all branded calves in July before back years ago.
I bet they were big calves.
Yeah, these big, too big.
Yes, sir. They get big enough like guys will maybe let you hold the hind feet with a horse, or did it?
Yeah, sometimes you could. If they were big enough there.
Yeah. Nobody's yelling neck him.
No, nobody at all.
Unless Cole's there.
Yeah, not even Cole Hatfield can flank some of those calves. Dang, I had a question on the tip of my tongue. I got distracted making fun of Cole. But have y'all been delayed this year because of all this rain?
Just now we have, yes, sir. We've been able to roll pretty good, but
Really?
but now, we pulled up. It's all running together now, but I guess we worked Monday and Tuesday, I think, and then we've held up this week. Yeah, and I don't know when we'll get started back. It's it's so saturated, so wet now. We get a tenth of rain, you're right back where you started. So
we were yesterday morning. We were looking at the Weather Channel and thinking, "Oh man, it's not going to rain today," and excited. And so we just took off, and we kind of underestimated the fog that came in.
Oh yeah,
and good heavens, you just about as long as this room is about how far we could see. You probably. Does the fog come in on you guys quite a bit sometimes?
Oh, yeah, sometimes it does.
Yeah. That seems, it's just almost impossible.
Oh, man, yeah.
Turn around a couple times, especially if it's not your country. You turn around once or twice, you don't even know what direction you're going.
I can get lost in my horse pasture in the fog.
One time we was over there, down there in South Grade, down there, beautiful Sunday morning, when Sunday morning just picture perfect, beautiful. Trotted the backside of that thing. These fog socked in there. It's about 7 o'clock that morning there. Sat right there in my tracks there till between 10:30 and 11 before that thing.
Just had to sit and
finally
wait.
lifted up.
Wow.
Oh, you just sat there and waited.
No, you couldn't tell where you was at. I was about 20 feet from one of the fences and stuff there. It just socked in on top of us there. Took it 3 hours and 45 minutes to lift, but
so you've probably got a pretty good idea that ranch is going to look really good this summer. Y'all are going to have a good summer.
Got his Sunday britches on right
Sunday
now.
britches on
Yes,
right now.
sir. Yeah. We were talking about that on the way up here, that, it's when it's like it is now, it seemed like the prettiest place on earth, but about July and August, when it hadn't rained in 60 days or something, it feels like the Sahara Desert out there.
Y'all's country looks really good coming up here too.
Yes, sir.
It's good.
I think we had 12 inches of rain in the month of April.
Wow. Great.
1955 was the last time we had that much rain in April. Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, today's May 1st, and so it rained last night, and it's supposed to rain again tonight here.
Yeah, that's the thing. For the next week, we got good chances still of coming in. But
I had a quarter of an inch more in the gauge there this morning. I went out there, I was going to go out there and dump it. I just had 2.5 there yesterday morning. It had 2 3/4.
got a little
inches
bonus.
in it. Yeah. I never even knew it rained.
little bonus rain.
Little bonus.
Yeah.
So I imagine with that large of a ranch, everybody has to be good with keeping inventory and knowing what cows are where and how many bulls are out. And so have you gotten to be pretty handy with keeping records?
Oh, you talking about just like for the country I watch and stuff
Yes,
there?
sir.
Oh, yes, sir. I pretty much know what I need to know about it and stuff.
Yes, sir.
But I got 3 bulls that Brad and Jake Vickers gathered for me and stuff there, and they broke out of that, and I ain't found them yet, and that's been a month and a half ago, so I don't know where they're at.
They may have washed away.
I guess they flew away or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's you was asking about stuff I've learned from Jimbo, keeping up with the numbers. You know, he's got those red books, and he writes everything down, and you know, good counts, good records. You know, he got to be pretty meticulous. You know, it's before I came there. You know, write it down on your hand or on a glove, and he, you know, kind of showed me through the years how he kept up with numbers and stuff, and that's been a lot of help. You know,
What were you saying when the office swapped over?
yeah, yeah. I think Heath was telling me that they were trying to figure out kind of what that country would run. You know, what it had ran through the years, and they couldn't really find an accurate number. And Jimbo had it just in those little red books. Ain't that right, Jimbo? You kind of dug those red books up for several years and got them got them the information they needed. But he had kept up. You know, he'd kept those books through the years. How many years worth of those books you think you have? You got them from every year you worked to run the wagon?
I lost a few of them. I've got a big tote plumb full of them things there. You know, 2 books a year. But my house burned up.
Oh, that's right.
3, and so
Dang.
I lost
Yeah.
a couple of them and stuff, but I've got the rest of them there.
Wow.
What started the fire?
Said it was an electrical short in the porch light.
Said it was an
But
electrical fire.
we was able to get out there fine, you know.
Yes, sir. That's scary.
Yeah. Fires are scary.
Yeah. Yeah, Stoney. Dang, I forgot to ask him about that on his podcast. He had his, I guess when was he at the Pitchfork
I think so. I've heard that story about when their house burned up.
refrigerator?
I think it was the
Like,
refrigerator.
came in and out, and yeah, that's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
A house burning.
Yeah,
Dang, Roy Cooper. That's
Yeah.
how that's
Yeah.
just 2 nights ago.
I know it.
Poor family.
I know it. Yep. Never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Never know.
Have you gotten to meet? As I was just thinking about cowboys and rodeo cowboys. Sometimes you get some guests like that come out and brand with you. Have you gotten to meet some cool people that?
I have. I've met that Dan Mortensen before. He's come out before,
Yeah.
and I've met some of those. Some of the rodeo clowns and stuff. A few times there, and I couldn't tell you who else, but
Yeah.
a few of them. Not
Yes,
a
sir.
whole lot of them, but I never did get to meet Roy Cooper or anything, though.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Didn't Weldon used to bring some of them guys out and go take them fishing during the Santa Rosa roundup?
He'd bring Hadley Barrett. He really liked to fish, and
Oh, yeah.
he'd bring them out there, and
Huh.
and I was trying to think the guy's name that takes the pictures. Dudley
Barker.
Yeah, Dudley.
Yeah.
Barker.
Yeah, he liked to fish too.
Yeah.
Yep. He's got some pictures of my dad from back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. My dad used to work for Charlie Thompson. He was a stock contractor up in the Panhandle, and anyhow. But yeah, that seems like there's always somebody maybe wants to come hang out at a Brandon or something. But
I don't ever want to come wean for some reason. I always want to come brand.
when I first started when Reggie first invited me out,
Yeah.
I would always try to go during weaning.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to go then. And the first few times I went as a full-time day worker there, I went to wean because I was like, man, that's where you kind of got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
go help with the less fun, less romantic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You know, kind of jumping back to how things used to be when Jimbo first came there, you know, he's talking about, you know, they didn't have the wagon pulled out. Now, Jimbo probably gets tired of me asking questions, but they still move the horses around. They still move the remuda around. They might not sleep, you know, they might not camp out, but y'all moved your horses around. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a saddle house for the longest time. And I just think, man, you know, back then, we've got it so good now. You know, just their saddles. We talk about all this rain. Y'all saddles never got to be under a roof, did they, Jimbo?
No, not at all. You just either pissed them on the ground or hung them on the fence or throw them over a corral fence or something. They stayed out. Rain, snow, dust, whatever. You know,
dang. And you would just sit in a wet saddle.
You didn't have no choice. I got a new saddle. Come a big rain over there. Give Jones with our horses over there. That's the biggest rain I ever seen here. They like 20% chance it rained over 15 inches there. That was in 77. I had a brand new Oliver saddle. When I pulled them Navajo blankets off up, that thing is green.
Oh, dang.
I took it to a car wash and cleaned it up.
Wow, it molded on you.
Dang.
That's bad.
Yeah.
15 inches.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't see them saddles for about 2 weeks. It's, you know, probably around 2 weeks or so before we could do anything. And yeah, that thing, it was green. Probably have been rode 10 times.
Dang.
Oh, man, that'd be a bitter pill to swallow right there.
Yeah, that'd be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Any tornadoes ever come through?
Yeah, but never did get caught in one. They've been 2 or 3 of them out there since I've been there. Mostly what they would tear up is they wrecky fences, boy. And sometimes you gotta, like on 183, you know, he'd tear up fence on one side of the road and he'd get the other side too, you know. So everywhere you went down through there, you had to. And there was a road down there, even a county road or anything like that, you had double fence to fix, you know.
Yes, sir.
Tear it up on both sides.
What about any hailstorms? You ever get caught out in those?
I have one time,
Yes, sir.
and we were down there in the RA trap, and it wasn't but about pea size.
Yes, sir.
But when we got back up to headquarters, we throwed them cows out of RA into the baits there, and we got back up our headquarters stuff. There's hail up there around that square stuff. There's probably 4 or 5 inches deep there. But
Good heavens.
it give us pretty good thrashing down there.
Yes, sir.
It didn't really hurt that bad, but it's aggravating as hell.
Is there, will y'all do anything different with so much grass this year?
No, no.
And like throw something extra in on some pastures or anything like that?
No, not really.
Not really?
Pretty well just scatter them across the whole ranch pretty much.
I guess it's also not the best time to buy something while you got the grass, and then if prices change.
Yeah, you know, that's the way it's been the last few years. It's you either got too many or not enough, you know.
Yes, sir.
You know, I forget, what was it, Jimbo, was it 22 that it was dry? And that's kind of when we saw the last of the Herefords go. That ranch, from what I gather, that year we had more cows than the ranch had seen in a long time. I think it was around 14,000 right there, Jimbo. And
Yeah,
I think,
probably so.
when was the last time you had seen that many cows on that ranch?
Probably back in the middle 80s.
Mid-80s.
And they kept a bunch of open cows, you know, and they end up just having to get rid of them things there. They run out of grass.
Yeah. So that year we'd, you know, it'd been dry, you know, we all know the 2011-12, you know, back before I was there, but, you know, Jimbo tells me they were way understocked. It finally, you know, got it up to 14,000 cows, and then it turns around and is as dry as it had been in 10 years. And I I don't know that it was as bad as 11, 12 along in that period, but it was dry enough. And then we had a big fire, and getting a bind pretty quick. But anyway, we saw, all those, the last of the Herefords. I think there was about 1,000 of those Herefords right about there, give or take a little. I don't remember exactly how many, but that drought, a few years ago kind of got to see the last of the old Waggoner Herefords go with that deal, But that's what you're talking about. It seemed like it's always a moving target.
Yeah.
This, you go from feast to famine kind of deal. But
can you think of any stories Jimbo's told that we just
man, there's a bunch of them. I'm sitting here. You got to tell him about the time y'all went on strike, Jimbo. That's the funniest one to me, when y'all went on strike. Cowboys went on strike.
Yeah, that light backfired on us. And we went on strike and thought we was doing too much fencing and not getting do enough horsebacking and stuff. And we had a little meeting there. He didn't go over just quite like we thought it would. It would have been better off if we had just kept our lift button on that deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go over well.
Yeah.
Was that when Boots was the boss?
Yeah, Boots and Jimmy Lee.
Yeah. What did they? I love what they told you. Tell him what they told you about the highway down there, where there's 4 different directions.
Oh, they said, I said, y'all pull a stunt like this again. Said you can go down there to the right gate and you got 3 choices. Then you can go down 1763, you take a right or you can take a left with your stuff.
Drive to that intersection, you got 3 choices.
Yeah.
All 3 of them are away.
Yeah.
Oh, how long did you work with Boots?
See, well, Boots have actually hired me in 76 there, and I probably worked with him till probably on up in about the middle 80s or so before he went back to school and stuff there. And he was watching some yearlings for the 60s and stuff around Varna, I think. I've seen him every once in a while, but
Yes, sir. So a good 10 years.
yeah, probably so.
Yes, sir. He was a wagon boss?
No, he was like the ranch foreman.
Oh,
And
yes, sir.
Jimmy Smith was the wagon boss.
Yes, sir.
You ought to talk about. You've told me a lot of neat stories about working for Jimmy, being the wagon boss there. And Jimmy eventually was the manager, if I'm not mistaken. But Jimbo's told me some neat stories about Jimmy.
Jimmy, he was a good cowman too.
Yeah.
Rode some good horses.
What'd you like about him?
He was just a nice guy. He's just a good all around fellow. He's easy to work for. Rode some really good horses. He could really drag some calves. He
Yeah.
was as good as I've ever seen. But he's just a good fellow. He was also a good cowman too.
Yeah. It's crazy to, I feel like a manager, a wagon boss too. You kind of got to look at it from the books side of the table where, hey, we need to be as efficient as possible to make as much money as we can, because that's the goal. It's a for-profit undertaking. But then also you got to, not forget about the cowboy side of things, and whether it's tradition or just treating your crew right. You don't want to. I guess I can just see a wide array of things you got to consider when you're the boss. So whether you're foreman or, it seems to me like that would be just my observation, because there's a lot of guys that can rope really well. They can train a horse. They know cows, but maybe they don't want to manage for whatever reason because that side of it is not what they want to do. But
Yeah, it seemed like it's getting harder. Seemed like the cowboy side of it and the business side of it seemed like sometimes it feels like they're kind of moving further apart. But of course, I'm very biased in my opinion. You know, you can't have you got to know how to handle the cattle right too to make a profit.
Yes, sir.
And there's not many people appreciate that, I don't think, anymore.
Right.
You know, appreciating a guy like Jimbo that can, you know, throw 500 cows up there and go and shape them up and cut all the ones out of there that don't need to be there, that aren't doing the ranch any good. You know, now you run them down a squeeze chute to decide whether or not you keep them. And you take a guy like Jimbo or the guys that he's talked about, the guys that he learned from, you know, it's kind of a lost art right there. Just something I still appreciate it. I still think there's a lot of value in it, but maybe the guys writing the checks sometimes I don't think they're appreciating.
Yeah.
You know what he's got over there, the knowledge he's got.
Yeah.
You know.
If you got a bunch of them old fat cows running around out there, them big old fat barren looking cows, or big old ugly cow, you know, or a bad cow. Every time you pull in that pasture, them's the ones you're going to see first every time.
Yes, sir.
They're just eyesore to you.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Every time. That's be the first one. Yeah. What was something you remember learning from Jimmy?
A whole lot of the stuff I learned from Jimmy, just like to watch him shape a herd or something like that. You know, he might go out there and just kind of tinker around in there, just kind of milling around in there, you know, maybe for 10 or 15 minutes or so. And all of a sudden he'd go in there and go to work. Then he'd go wheeling them things out. I guess he's kind of sizing up what he was looking at and stuff there, but he can make it happen in a hurry and stuff. But he spent a lot of time looking at them too.
Yes, sir. What about Boots?
Boots, same way too. You know, they were both good cowmen and stuff.
Was Wesar, were Boots?
I would work around Wes occasionally, you know, with these old white face when I go, but I never did work for Wes or anything.
Gotcha.
Just get to work around him when he would come and help us.
Yes, sir.
Wes, good cowboy too. Yo, lots of good cowboys.
Yes, sir. And you're still at headquarters now?
Mm-hmm. But I kind of watched some of that Four Corners country and some more of it. That just right up and down that creek, Beaver Creek there.
Yes, sir.
And feed and take care of my animals.
Yeah.
Jimbo's horses always looked the best, you know.
Really?
He just, and when I first came there, Jimbo was still shoeing his own horses too. You know, 8 years ago, he was still, all of them would be shot up, look good, you know, ready to, always got something you go do whatever you want to do on. You know, he had a horse there that ended up getting crippled. They called Sage, real pretty chestnut sorrel, prettier horses I think was even on the ranch at that time, and just go do whatever you wanted to do on him, you know. But, you know, you're only as good as the horses you got. So.
Yes, sir. Where'd you learn to shoe?
Actually, I kind of learned it from old Joe Harney. He kind of showed me quite a bit about it and stuff, and helped me a bunch too. And then he could come over there, and I was having problems with stuff where he could shoe him in 30 minutes, you know.
Right.
And if he wanted to take a foot, he couldn't do it. He couldn't take it from Joe, but he'd still get him on him.
Yeah, he walk around them. 30 minutes is quick.
Yeah, that's getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Takes me that long to get one foot done sometimes.
Right. Right. Yeah. My dad shod horses for a while with Bernie Chapman.
Yeah.
And Bryce and Baker and Blaine's dad. And anyhow, I held a lot of horses for him.
Yeah.
And I could kind of trim a little bit, but I wasn't counting on him leaving out so soon. I should have learned how to shoe him myself, but
it's good to know how. Yeah, Blaine still shoes some for us now too.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. Yeah. He lives there in Vernon now. And he
Oh,
shoots
that's
horses.
right. He lives in Vernon.
We took some to him yesterday, as a matter of fact. So,
Yeah, that's right there.
yeah.
Heck, I talk to him probably every other day.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Good at what he does.
I need to have him on here.
Yeah. He'd be a good
You run
one.
into Blaine some?
I do. Usually when we carry load them horses, a lot of times I'll either carry them up there or I'll be with somebody that carries them up there, and I'll usually get to visit with him a little bit.
He's one of the ones that him and Brad, of course, and Gringo and Zane Davis. We're like, you got to have Jimbo on. You got to talk to Jimbo. So, did you get to know Zane pretty well?
Oh yeah, I know him pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice young man.
Yes, sir. Really handy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is. He's a good one.
Yeah. And then, were you around? You get to be around Gringo quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah. Oh yeah, several years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he went back.
Mm-hmm.
He left and then came back.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'd probably get nervous next to you on the drive. You would probably know exactly how long it would take and know where to go. You know all the ins and outs of those.
I might be sleeping a little bit, but I know most of it.
I know I can go to this part and sleep for this long and then get back on my horse. Yeah. Well, any stories come to mind about the ranch? Have we told them all?
Getting close. no, they probably, well, I'm just not as good a storyteller as what a lot of people are and stuff.
Jimbo, talk about some of those old camp men back in those days. You know, you told me about some of those old bachelors, some of those guys that stayed out there for years and years and just took care of it.
I just go up there. I visit Mr. Paul Whitley. I'd go up there, and he was probably on up in his 80s when he'd probably been in his 70s when I first come here. But anyway, I'd go up there and see him every time I'd go up there to see Mr. Paul. I'd carry him a 12-pack of Budweiser beer. I'd give him a package of Lucky Strike non-filtered cigarettes and a plug of Red Tag Tinsley, and then he'd go and put it in his house, get it all put up, and he'd come out there and he'd get a beer off me and him bum a cigarette.
He had it figured out.
and you could visit with him for a couple of hours, and he'd just get to squirming around, and you could tell he's about ready for you to get on down the road and leave him alone and stuff there.
Didn't he have a pet coyote that hung out
Yeah,
around
he
there?
used to have a little pet coyote there for a long time. That he'd put his scraps, that thing, he'd sit out there on kind of down that hill from that cellar and stuff, which Mr. Paul would dump them scraps out the pie plate. He'd come up there and eat.
Dang. That's the most cowboy thing I think I've heard. Is
What about the gentleman that lived at Coffee Creek, and you said y'all were over there and were going to load your horses? Y'all been working way back there, maybe at Indian Pens or something.
Yeah, Slim Evanson. Yeah, he trotted everywhere he went over there at Coffee Creek. You'd ask you, say, load your horse up, Slim, we'll give you a ride to your house. He go, how the hell? He said, there's got to be something out here I need to be looking at.
It'd nearly be dark.
Or he'd say, this thing here ain't never been loaded on the trailer before. You know, he had 2 or 3 horses out there that never been loaded in their life.
he just trotted everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Mm.
And the campers didn't have pickups for the longest time, did they?
No, just, no, they didn't have pickups. They paid them if they wanted to furnish a pickup, they'd pay them a little fuel allotment and stuff there.
Yeah.
But, if you burnt some tires or something like that, you'd probably go in the hole from the allotment. But
Ranch didn't issue campers pickups till, was it the 90s before they really started doing that? When
probably
was
in the
that?
80s or in the 90s there,
yeah.
probably late 80s.
Wow. My phone, your phone will track kind of how many miles you go in a day, and every now and then. The other day we did Croton.
Yeah.
And I looked at my phone and I was just like, dang, I went 20 miles that day, and I felt like I had been But I bet that was nothing for y'all. I mean, there'd be no way of knowing.
We'd probably been that far in a day's time, but not every day.
Right.
But make you feel like you're bow-legged again, don't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good,
I was sore.
good feeling every now and then.
I was sore for 3 days.
Yeah.
From that deal.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be just nothing for you guys.
We don't do that a lot anymore, do we? Every now and then he's talking about moving the cows around in the fall. We go to moving cows around, scatter. We got straight decks there. We do a lot of hauling, but if it's everywhere we can, we'll take off and just, like he was talking about, driving cows around and scattering them back out. And that's always fun. We do it more than anything, just break the monotony up for everybody. And two, of course, it's, expensive running those trucks around and stuff. But, everybody kind of looks forward to just getting away from, the rat race. And you just take off with some cows and go to taking them to their new homes like he was talking about. You can go a long ways in a day doing that. And it makes you feel good. Nice to do that kind of breaks it up.
Driving cows 12 miles just all the time.
Maybe you don't want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it every day, but
right.
Yeah, it's pretty slow.
Dang. Yeah, and they would have
and then to get slower.
Get slower, yeah.
Yeah.
And then too, when you go to sprinkle them in here and there, you got them, if it got any heat or anything involved in the situation, stuff where you need to take them to water and stuff there so they can find them, and then go on back to your other business.
Well, it sounds like too, one thing y'all had to deal with then is you get those cows where they got to be, and you need to also move the horse herd, move the remuda around, because y'all.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore, but we used to. Those old horses, you could tell when you got ready to move those horses, they'd be waiting for you at that gate. All you had to do is swing it out, and they knew where they was going to.
Yeah, that's
really.
Neat.
Yeah, sometimes they'd really leave out there in a pretty good lope. You'd have to catch on up with them and stuff, make sure you got your trap shut back up and stuff. For them old horses, they knew where they was going next.
How many head of horses in one group might you have to move?
When I was running the wagon stuff, there was about 110 to 120 horses, something like that. But they knew where they'd go in and stuff there, though.
That sure never gets old, watching a group of horses.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's pretty. It's easy to get mad at a cow, but
yeah.
But you go to jingle some horses or something, and man, that's sure romantic.
Yeah, it's neat to see that many horses thrown together. When I met you there at the Sixes, I always loved seeing all of their horses thrown together. Just good looking set of horses. Back then, there was more sorrels and stuff. 10 years ago, back before Metallic Cat and all of that. Now probably a lot more roans and everything. But I just remember, 10 years ago there at the Sixes, there's a whole lot of sorrels. A lot of them look just alike. Pretty neat to see.
I don't know if you remember, but when we caught horses in what's that one set of pens? It's kind of closer to North Camp. That, anyways, I'm not. But
right off the highway there, maybe. Yeah.
And I think it's the pasture right north of Northtown, maybe. But anyway, it had a little rope corral. Set up.
Yeah.
And my horse had never been in a rope corral,
and
not with that many horses.
Yeah.
At one time anyway, he goes and runs by, and like they're I wasn't jingling horses with them. And so these guys try to get him to go in that entrance, and he just blows right by it and clips the side of the fly.
Yeah, I don't remember that happening, but.
And Reggie said, just leave that son out there. If he don't want to come in, he don't,
Yeah.
Well, then the next morning I needed him, and he did come in, and everybody recognized him. And I said, I don't know whose horse this is, but I guess I'll ride him.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
I guess I'll ride him. whoever horse this is,
Yeah.
I'll ride him. But did y'all? Has it always been someone? It seems though, throughout, with the internet and I've seen posted some videos, and it seems like the way that we catch horses of a morning here is a little different than the way guys do it elsewhere. Has it always been that way? Like, you have one or two bosses will go in and rope a
pretty much
horse,
is.
and
You'll have 2 horse ropers and just call out what you need, and they'll get them for you.
everybody, and they can throw just a nasty hula hand. Yeah. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, and I just haven't really got to Cowboy in other places. But it just seems like that is one thing that people are kind of interested in, is the way that we might rope a horse. But also, it just seems really hard to walk into a group of 100 horses and try to corner your one.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know another way to do it, seems like.
Yeah. I know if I'm by myself, I just walk in there with a halter and catch one. But when you got 10, 15 guys, it's probably the fastest way to do it, in my opinion. I've seen videos where guys could, I've seen like buckaroos do it and stuff. Maybe Jimbo's seen it, where they just teach those horses to line up single file, behind a rope or something. Not real sure how they do it or how they even get them to do it. But I know I always liked watching Jimbo rope horses. I remember watching Monty Holler was always good at. I liked watching him rope horses, but that's really the only 2 places I've been. Fro Walden's another one that would always rope horses out for us when we helped him,
Yeah.
It's neat to watch, but in my opinion, that's the best. You got a crew of guys right there. It can turn into chaos if everybody's trying to catch their horse, like you would by your running around with a halter trying to catch them in the middle of 50 horses or whatever.
I have to rope Buckethead in a pen the size of this room. So, I
Rope him in a 12 by 12 stall.
just have to. When you picture a horse named Buckethead, that's exactly what he looks like. So,
Hey, Bro Tater Chip, if you like getting swole-o-matic, then get yourself some Protein on mountainops.com. Hey, or if you just like being healthy, whether you're trying to bulk up, get healthy, have energy, go to mountainops.com and use code Kevin for 20% off.
grade and big old head, fill it with nickels, and we'd be rich.
Perfect.
I bet you can rope a horse pretty good.
Yeah, you can.
Probably way out of practice now. It's been a while, but always had fun doing it though.
Yeah. Even in the dark. Some of you guys are good in the morning, like it's not even light yet. I don't understand that. Conditions got to be just right for me.
Me too. We were just talking about that the other day. We get these day workers come in, and man, it takes me forever to learn all their horses. The guys that work there that I've been around a lot, I know their horses, but man, we can look up 2 months from now, and I'm still trying to remember some of them's horses. And I told Jimbo the other day, I said, I don't know how you guys ever did it in the dark. Now we've got a good floodlight right there. You can see real well, but man, doing it in the dark, there's no telling what I would mess up.
You're pretty much going to have to ride what I catch.
Yeah, whatever I lead out there, you better be ready to ride him.
And there'd be 3 streak-faced saws standing side by side.
Yeah.
You don't know which one of them that they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the other straight-faced one.
Yeah. No, that's the wrong one.
Was it when you did break those 3-year-olds? I've heard stories of guys talking about really just tying them down, saddling them, and take off. Is that kind of what it was like?
We just kind of do it, you just go make a few circles on them in the evenings and stuff, and kind of stay together, till they kind of got them going a little bit and stuff there, and then kind of split off and go do your own thing there. But
Yeah. How many horses did you usually have in your string?
anywhere from 10 to 12, probably most of the time. But I think when I first came here, I think I had 12 head. That was in the 70s. But anywhere 10, 11 horses.
Yes, sir. Dang. Can you think of any advice that any of the Jimmy or Boots or anybody like that might have given you over the years that stuck with you? Whether it was maybe one-liners or just advice you still think back to?
I might have him ask me, say, well, what do you see wrong with this picture here, you know? And, I don't know, he said, the cattle's too tight, you know. You loosen them off just a little bit, make them work a lot better.
Yes, sir.
But most time, he might give you a pointer like that or something, but most time, not anything.
So would that be like when y'all were branding or working the
maybe
herd or
branding,
something? Like having them throwed up in the corners?
Have them a little too tight stuff.
Yeah.
So you need to loosen off on them just a little bit, give them a little cushion.
Yeah. Were you Jimmy Straw Boss at one time, Jimbo?
No.
Okay.
No.
And you're wagon boss, right?
Traffic director.
Traffic director.
Yeah.
Air traffic controller.
I'm not qualified to be the wagon boss.
Gotcha.
Get my glow sticks and orange vest every morning. Just start. That's the best way to define my
Your
position.
role there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. When Cole was at Cowan, you and him got to work together quite a bit.
Yeah, Cole was there. I lose track of time now. He was there for a good 3 years anyway, I think. Yep.
That's a long time for him to be somewhere.
Yeah.
He's been preaching now for about that long.
Cole's done good. Proud of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done really well. And I mean, just you won't meet a guy that works as hard or tries as hard and good at what he does too.
I use him as an example to guys around here as far as like just how quickly someone might walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, I'll describe Cole and how the way he hustles. I was like, you don't have to walk quite that fast, but try to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a mover and a stepper, isn't he, Jimbo?
Mm-hmm.
And Heath
always
too.
laugh.
Heath too. I mean, Reggie, he taught those guys how to work. They're workers. They're good help anywhere you put them, you know, and do anything. You know, you run across those guys that they, you know, we have to kind of swap out driving a truck around there some, you know, hauling, especially during the fall, weaning calves and stuff. And Cole, of course, Heath is trucked for a living, you know, but he's a good hand of horseback too. But, you know, that's what's so neat to me about Heath and Cole is they never were too good to do anything, build fence or whatever. And Cole, he figured out how to drive that truck. I told him one day I was riding with him, he was just learning how, you know, and we were rolling along there and before I know it, we're going wide open and he don't even know it. He's just telling one story after another. And here in a minute, I said, Cole, just because there's 10 gears in this truck, that doesn't mean we got to use them all here. About that time, we're coming off what they call Rattlesnake Hill, going into headquarters, and boy, we've got her laid back and we are rolling. Oh my gosh, what do we do? What do I do? I said, I don't know, but slow this thing down.
He, when he started preaching, I was, I want to say it's Proverbs 17, maybe something in there, maybe 15, 17 or 17, 15, something like that. But there's you know how Proverbs, it'll be just kind of sometimes random advice almost, you know, but it says, don't greet your neighbor loudly in the morning, you know, or something like that. And he just getting started and he was like, what are you talking about? You know, boy, if it's too early in the morning, don't answer his phone call. He's going to be yelling.
Yeah, he'll wake you up. That's for sure. We got him good on April Fool's one time. It was when he's living there at Cowan's, and we were supposed to meet somewhere on April Fool's Day and work. And I called him before we got there, and I said, hey, where you at? I'm sitting here at the pens waiting on you. I said, well, I'm sitting at the pens too, and you're not here. I said, I told you, and I don't remember. Maybe I told him brushy pens and on the Fulda side, you know, and he was over on his camp. He says, oh my gosh, I'll be right there. I thought that you said it over here. Well, he hung up the phone and started that away, and then we were coming right around the corner and pretty much made him head on right there. But he was stirred up. He had Wes with him that morning too, you know. And Wes, he said he got off the phone, and Wes just said, "Oh, change of plans, huh, Cole?" And they were burning rubber, going somewhere else.
Yeah, Cole said he was, and you might can relate to this comment Cole made, but he said he hates black cows. He said no passion. And he said even Wes,
Yeah.
the way Cole said it, no, you don't even get to chase nothing anymore.
Yeah.
But I guess was there a dramatic drop in having to chase wild cattle whenever the switch from red to black?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yes, sir. Gringo said you guys would shap for anything all the time.
Oh yeah.
Or was maybe that just him? He got shapped.
No, they'd jab you for anything,
Really?
anything I could dream up.
What are
They
some?
asked me one time there. I hadn't been there but maybe a day or two. I said, "You gonna help on this deal?" I said, "Hell, I don't even know him." I said, I just shook hands with him one time. They said, "Better get over here to help like that." And I said, I go ahead. I was the next one down.
They downed you for not helping.
So the next time I shot somebody, I made sure I was in on part of it anyway, somewhere.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, I thought, who
I don't even
do
know
nothing
him.
there. I didn't know him good. Barely met him.
I don't have nothing against him.
Oh, what have you been shapped for out there?
Oh, probably
Anything else?
needed to be shapped for a lot of things, I'm sure. But they got me one time. My wife Cassidy, she was cooking, and I had a few guys with me, and we got split up for some reason. The way I remember it, the crew kind of got split, and we were going here and there one day, and I just swung by. We were driving by the cook shack, and I just swung by the cook shack there one day, and I just jumped out. I had my leggings on, and I went in the cook shack just to see, kind of let her know when lunch was going to be ready. And boy, they were waiting for me. There wasn't many guys with us that day. And boy, I came back outside and they had me down in a hurry. And then they always get you on your birthday, you know.
Right.
And then, I don't know, I've eluded them the last couple years on my birthday and got
When's your
slipped
birthday?
away, March 21st.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of slipped out on them this last time.
Yeah.
Your birthday rolls around, you kind of break out in a cold sweat.
Right.
You're supposed to enjoy your birthday, but kind of dread it around there.
Dixon Creek would always brand during my birthday. They moved it recently, thank God. But Zach Burson's wedding anniversary is also on my birthday, May 21st. So True and Dusty would just know.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, we're also going to. And yeah, the last time it was on my birthday, I just knew I'd slipped by them, and they had pulled a wagon out, and people kind of scattered. Well, I got this long hair, so I have to take a bath every day. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just terrible, it just gets to stinking and everything. So I go take a bath, and for some reason nobody else did that day, and I get back, and I'm just so confident that I
Yeah.
snuck by the day without getting shapped, and it's like 5:00 in the afternoon, and I'm just looking around, and I walk up to my teepee, and I'm thinking specifically I'm like, man, this is wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Made it.
Yeah.
And I unzip that teepee, and I look back, and 11 of them are in
Oh,
my
man.
teepee.
Oh, they were in there
They were
waiting
in
for
there
you.
Waiting on me. And the first face I saw was Gringo.
Oh, yeah.
He just come out at me, and yeah, they got me.
Yeah, they got you.
Well, I had shoulder surgery or collarbone surgery, and this was kind of the first active thing I'd done. I was released, and so they chased me, and I hit the rope and dummy, and I just rolled.
Oh, man.
And so they all stop, and we stand up, and they're like, "Man, are you okay? Are you okay?" And they make sure I'm all right, and I was like, "Whew, I can't believe y'all gave up.
Yeah.
And then the
Wrong
race was
zone,
on, and
yeah.
they chased me out in the pasture. But
Seemed like the worse you fight it, the worse it gets too.
Oh,
Seem
yeah.
like
and then if you don't fight it,
yeah,
then
you got to
then
fight
you
it a
get
little bit. Yeah,
I've only ever been shapped for my birthday though. But
yeah.
I've never worked anywhere full time either, so I don't. I guess maybe that gives me a pass.
Well, they used to get. I mean, you couldn't even sneeze the wrong way, and they'd get you.
Make up the rules as we went along.
Yeah, just kind of
yeah,
kangaroo court, huh?
yeah. Make up the
Yeah.
You wasn't going to win.
yeah. Guilty as charged.
What was the deal? They made up. Somebody, maybe Chris Henry, was telling me about Mac Daniels or something one time. He got a drink of water just out of the tin can at the water cooler, and there was just a little bit of it left. Maybe he just poured it out on the ground, and they downed him. And then after they got done with it, said he just picked up the whole water cooler, and it was hot that day, and he just dumped it all out.
Oh dang!
Just,
I remember that when we was branding over at them Burdale pens there. Big herd.
yeah,
He said that's what you call wasted water.
yeah. After they'd already shafted him, then he
yeah. What about real fights? You seen anybody?
Oh, you used to see a little scuffle match, or it wasn't nothing real bad or anything that I knew of.
Yeah. Everybody got along pretty good.
Pretty most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. 50 years. Y'all gonna throw a big party for him?
we need to.
Yeah.
He deserves one. 50
Yeah.
years. That's something right there.
That is something.
Makes my little 08-year hitch not look like very much.
Right. Donnie's been here 6 years.
Oh yeah.
In July. And I think I guess Lisa, the tall blonde, I don't know if she was here when y'all got here. She's worked for me 7 years. Maybe 8. I felt like that was like crazy long time, but
Well, how long have you been doing this deal now? You've been at it for, has it been 15 years now?
my first video was July 1st will be 12 years.
12 years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I guess I've had a job 12 years.
Yeah.
So that's my longest stint. My last full-time job was my brother-in-law. My sister married Czech Creole, lives here. And,
Yeah.
he's got some yearlings scattered out, and that was my last job. That I'd actually started this in 13, but in 2015 I was working for him running yearlings, and that's what landed me in this part of the world.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Memphis, actually. When you mentioned Childress, I grew up
yeah, okay.
Memphis, Texas, on 287, and but anyway, we so yeah, I've been here in this town for 10 years, but making videos for 12. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun, but I get to, I don't know. I really enjoyed visiting with cowboys, and it's the way of life I am interested in, and so
Yeah. Well, I personally appreciate what you're doing. You're bringing something positive, like Steele here. He likes watching your stuff, and
Yes,
and I
sir.
know he can watch it, and it's going to be okay.
Yes, sir.
and I think back in years and years ago, kids had like Roy Rogers and the Lone Ranger and that kind of stuff. Well, that's not
now they're stuck with me.
now there's Dale, but I mean it's a good positive,
Yes, sir.
good positive deal all the way around.
I've really thought about making videos specific to like even 2-year-olds,
Yeah,
like 2 and 3-year-old kids.
yeah,
Because like a 2-year-old, they'll watch and there's like kind of some silly type videos, but I've thought about making videos like for like little kids. It'd take about a 5-year-old kid to. There's some of my ranching type videos that maybe a 3-year-old that would I can keep their attention.
Yeah.
It's hard though when you go to talking.
Well,
if there's anything talking in it,
Yeah.
a 2 and a 3-year-old, they're out.
Well, it's a way to educate them. You know, a kid in town that
Yes, sir.
never has been exposed, or anybody,
Yes, sir.
you know, any age for that matter. But no, I think you're bringing something positive
Well, I appreciate it.
out there about what we do every day.
That very first video, I didn't know we were going to even put it online. I think I said like maybe 4 cuss words. It was like the S word and the D word. And nothing bad, you know. It's PG-13.
Yeah.
But my mom was teaching 2nd grade at the time, and so that was my buddy put it on the internet, Mitch Montgomery, and which I'm forever grateful for. But I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so after that, I told my mom, I was like, all right, I'll make sure that your 2nd graders, who she was teaching at the time, could watch it, you know.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great because I get to meet legends like
Yeah. No kidding.
the Glove.
The Glove. Yep. That's
Jimbo
him
the Glove Glover.
in the flesh right there. Yeah. Well, and that's what's cool about Jimbo is he's just stayed out there and done his job, you know. It's
Yes, sir.
not just humbly done his job, and he's impacted a lot of people. There's everybody that's ever worked for Jimbo, I think's got just the utmost respect for him and can sit here just like I can and say, man, I've learned a lot from that guy. And
It's crazy how neat of an opportunity it is for young people to come into a ranch like that. Like Cole, for instance, you said 3 years, or Gene, or Zane Davis, and
yeah,
yourself, and Gringo, and hundreds of others. That
yeah,
you go to work when you before you get there, you're thinking like, man, what's this going to be like? Like you're worried about, am I going to be able to rope the calf that squirted out of the herd? Am I going to be able to, you're worried about doing your job well, and you underestimate the relationships.
exactly.
And it's neat.
Yeah.
Like, man, it was so fun to get to work next to this guy, and I got to learn so much from Jimbo. And before you show up, for me at least, I think when you leave a place, you're just like, oh man, that was cool.
Yeah.
That I got the relationships
Absolutely.
side of the job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all you really got at the end of the day, that's your friendships, your relationships. I'm the same way. I've like talking about being at the Sixes, just so focused on filling your hole. I wish I could have sat back. We was talking about that on the way up here, just I was so excited to get a camp job at Waggoner's and just be able to go enjoy the country. I remember taking that job and just saying, man, I look forward to just getting to go prowl. I've got to go to some other neat places, like the Sixes there. And you just, I just remember being there thinking, man, I got to fill my hole and not just really getting to enjoy that ranch, but like you said, you're there and you want to pull your weight. You want to make a hand, and kind of, I know I've missed the point a lot of times, but those good friendships with good men like him, those are priceless.
Yeah.
Quote says it, friendship is a cement that helps hold this old world together that we live in. It's pretty good saying.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good. Yep.
Do you feel like a mentor? I mean,
I just think about the friendships I have with all the people that I know.
Yes, sir.
But there's nothing better than a good friendship with somebody.
Yes, sir.
Never met a man that had too many of them either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a heavy burden. I thought that would be your answer. I'm sure it's probably a lot of people that would put you down as their mentor. So.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it'd be neat to write down all the. I'm sure there's been plenty of like little one-liners.
Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to think of any that I would even know, but just like slow down. We're in a hurry kind of advice type
Yeah.
deals that Jimbo has, you know.
I tell a lot of young people, I tell them, I say, you take everything you ever learned in your life and you use it to your advantage to make you better at what you do. And it don't make any difference what that is. But the saddest thing in the world is wasted talent.
Yes, sir. Have you guys taken on many of those? So when you showed up, you said you were pretty green. You'd only had 2 jobs. Has there been some times where you've seen that same young kid come in there that didn't know a lot?
Sure, you'll see it from time to time. There's just lots of those young guys that has lots of natural ability, you know, and has a lot of talent, you know.
Yes, sir.
Just depends on how you use it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for jumping onto our little podcast interview here. We usually wrap up with life advice. I feel like this whole podcast has been life advice.
Yeah.
You don't. I'd sit here and talk to you for hours if we could, but I want to respect y'all's time. Y'all got to go brand some calves tomorrow, probably.
Shoot, I've got till next week. We got all the time in the world.
If it keeps
I'll just,
raining.
I can
We got
keep
nothing but
pumping.
time.
I can keep pumping, you know.
Well, if you know of any more, I mean, it's
Yeah, and there's a lot. There's a lot there, you know. The 50 years of watching, you know, and I'm sure following me around, he's thinking, "Good gosh, what is Cowboy come to? What's this idiot doing? What's he gonna do next?"
I'll tell you what, that's the same way that I learned it and stuff by studying cowboys.
Yeah,
I studied those old men like a history book for years and years and years. And I'm still not through. I'm still learning, but I thank them so much for having, you know, and the good part about it, it didn't cost you a penny
yes, sir.
getting a free education.
Right.
But that's where you learn that stuff from.
Yes, sir. I think I'm most impressed with Steele. Man, I have a hard time sitting still for that long. You've been a little gentleman over here,
yeah.
buddy.
You got anything you want to say?
You're just hanging out. How old are you now, buddy? 8. Oh, so you've pretty much just grown up right there on the ranch.
Yeah, he was a year old, I guess, when we moved there.
Does he get to go with y'all?
Yeah, he goes with us quite a bit.
Are there
Yes, sir.
are there a few kids that?
There's a lot of kids there now. Yeah, there is.
That's
Lot
cool.
kind of his age. Yeah.
That's super cool. That
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah, we'll have our own crew here for long.
When me and Phil brought them bulls down to y'all here 10 days or so ago
yeah.
there, they had a whole backup crew of young ones out there and stuff.
Yeah, there's probably
They had
six or eight
Just
of
about a
them.
branded crew.
Yeah, yeah.
The little ones.
Couple more years, we'll have some flankers right here.
I guess you probably know the spots where, all right, we better not take kids today because of this reason, but these pastures these are
Yeah.
great, you know.
Pretty well. They can go about any day, really.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially his age, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, you know, Austin Freeman, he's got 3 boys there, and two out of 3 of them are old enough they can kind of keep up. You know, Bailey Clark's got 2 boys that they go wide open, you know, just like Bailey does. And then Daley Welch has got a son. He and Steele are in the same class there.
Where do they go to school? Or do y'all do
Right up
homeschooling?
there at Harold, right there off of 287, just
Oh, nice.
east of Ranch. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll be up there in about 10 minutes. Bailey's boys go out at Benjamin. Bailey lives out on the west side of the ranch. His boys go there at Benjamin. So, yeah, pretty
Crazy. That's how big the ranch is.
Yeah,
They go to 2 different schools.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
wild.
2 counties over.
Good heavens. How many
Yeah,
contiguous acres is it?
What is it, Jimbo? Is it before they added the Cowens? What was Wagner's under one fence? Was it 525?
Yeah, about 525,000.
Wow.
Then they bought the Cowan place I think that was I was thinking about that though on the way up here. I think that was the fall of 22. Does that sound right? Or was it the fall of 21? 21 or 22.
It was one or the two of them. I can't remember.
They bought the Cowboy Ranch, which is where Cole lived, and it's about 30 to 35,000 acres. So
Dang.
they added that to the original Waggoner part.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a neat ranch.
Yeah.
Really green right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really green. Well, cool deal. Well, hopefully I'll maybe get to see you again, cross paths somewhere else.
I'm sure we will.
Yes, sir. So, top hand like me, I get invited everywhere.
You're a busy man, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Got my works full, you know.
Yeah. Book is full.
Sorry, I can't go. I've already been called.
Yeah. But if you go up a little bit, I could rearrange some
Yeah, I
things.
gotta start.
Yeah. Do you remember when we called, I had you call like Fro and Ron Redford? You remember doing that there?
Oh, on the wagon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Called wanting, telling them that they needed to hire you. I don't remember what all you said. It was
Oh,
funny.
my gosh. I forgot.
I think
all
Fro hung
about
up
that.
on you, and Ron, he got a big kick out of it, but Fro, he just finally, I don't even know who you are, and just hung the phone up on you.
Oh, my gosh. We called Tell, too.
Yeah, I think called Tail. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, I forgot all about that. That's how I got started, is just prank phone calling people.
Yeah, that's how the whole deal got started.
Man. Oh. I remember sitting around the wagon just like, yeah. I worked with Ron that day we were in Croton. Ron was
Yeah,
there.
Ron was there.
Yeah. Man, I want to have Ron and everybody. A few people have suggested having two people on at a time, like
Yeah.
this right here. You know, you
Yeah.
can remind each other stories.
Yeah,
But somebody was saying Ron and Keeler together would be hilarious.
yeah.
But
Yeah, that'd be a comedic act right,
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Man, I should have brought that up. I completely forgot about that. That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just need to hire me. You hire me, you won't have to hire
think-
three more guys.
Yeah, and I think you asked Ron if the air conditioner worked in the house. That's one thing I remember is if the air conditioner worked in the house. He asked Ron or Fro, one of the two. That might have been when Fro hung the phone up. I can't remember, but
Yeah, I got to have AC, and I like to get started about 7. I don't know about that.
yeah, got to make your own rules.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
have breakfast at 7. We'll take off jogging, trotting about 8. That'd be good.
Let the sun get good and high.
Oh man, did you enjoy staying on the wagon later when they pulled it out?
Hey, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Most time I had to go back. I had paperwork to do. You know what I do? I might go over there and stay with them on a Friday night or something like that, and then get up and cook them breakfast, and then just hang around the wagon, let them go do what they wanted to, whatever we had, and then I'd cook them lunch too, and
Yes, sir.
give them a little bit of a break away from me.
Yes, sir.
But
You need to go to the bathroom? If you'll go out that door and then just turn left, it's on the other side of this wall. Yeah. Don't forget to flush. Man. How many you got?
We just had our third one 3 weeks ago. Baby girl, Pecos Valley.
And then the middle.
The middle girl's Letty. She's about to be 7.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, he's well behaved. I bet
Oh
the
yeah.
other two are.
Yeah, his mama.
Yeah.
You can blame that on her.
Right.
She don't cut them much slack.
Is it a lot of other families around? You live at headquarters?
Yes, sir. Well, west of headquarters, a couple miles, but pretty much headquarters. Yeah.
Man, it's such a different life out just being that far from town.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if I could manage. I just feel like I'm around so many people all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I'd like to be out
Yeah.
away from, everybody would, but
Rock and roll denim is what Dale Brisby uses to spur his bucking bulls. I get the Reflex. Gives me the mobility I need to be the cowboy I am. So go to rockandrolldenim.com, old son.
Yeah, we kind of got the best of both worlds right there around headquarters. You know, you're out in the country, but it's not far to town. If you got to run in there and do something, it's not a big deal. You know, where a lot of people, they've got to plan a whole day if they've got to go to town to just get groceries or whatever. You know, there's some of those deals pretty remote. You know, like
I guess for you guys, yeah, I was about to say it's a lot of those out in New Mexico, sounds like, you know, and I'm sure other places. But for Waggoners, I bet if you're living flat dab in the middle of the ranch, there might be some spots you're 40 miles from.
Yeah, I don't know. Bailey would probably be the furthest one, which he's not that far to Benjamin. It's Benjamin, you know.
But, you know, like for him to go to a place to buy groceries or something, it'd probably be 50 miles or so.
Yeah, to really get to
where he'd have a
good grocery
pretty good
store.
selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're like Bailey, you don't really need a grocery store. Kind of a mountain man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the longest that you've been without leaving the ranch, you think?
Oh, anymore, if I need something, I'll just run into town and get it or something, you know. But used to, when my kids were little, I might go to town every couple of months or so, but I'd have somebody bringing me back for what I needed, though.
Yes, sir.
But I could live in the country for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. A month, 2 months without going to town. That'd be hard, Donnie.
You just talking about Mr. Paul. How long would it be before he went to town?
He'd try to go to town about every 90 days or
Oh,
something.
wow. 90 days.
Get him a haircut.
Yeah.
And so he'd like to go into a barbershop and get him a haircut and a shave.
Yeah. 90 days. Golly. That's wanting it.
Little
That's
different.
living it.
Yeah.
A little different. Yeah.
That was kind of the normal, though, back in those days,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
I guess if that's all you know. Well, I guess on to the next one.
Pow, pow.
Man, I appreciate you coming on, sir.
You bet you.
It's been awesome. It's I love hearing some of those old stories. And recent stories too.
Maybe if we ever do it again there, I can think up some good ones for you.
Oh, you're good. Yes, sir. Yeah. No, I'd love to. So, Brad, I appreciate you bringing him.
Shoot, man, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed every bit of it. I've been pumped about this deal.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Everybody out there, appreciate you guys listening, and yeah, if you happen to be driving down, what's that road? Is it 183?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Just to look out, you might see old Jimbo out there cutting a trot across the pasture.
Yeah. Probably roping something, hanging it on something.
Hanging it
You
on
got to tell him
something.
all the time, put his rope up.
Put your
Slow down, Jimbo.
All right. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for listening. Check out rodeotime.com. Pow pow.
Rodeotime.com is the only website that should exist because it's the greatest apparel line that has ever existed. So go there now to get a t-shirt, a hoodie, a cap, a vest, whatever it is you need. Go to rodeotime.com, old son.